minor common thread of we allow these things to happen to us, we don't want to improve them, and now we're stuck with the consequences. What am I speaking about? Well, let's start off today's daily review. Now, my first story doesn't necessarily have to do with that per se. However, Dr. Emily Brown, Minister of Foreign Affairs and CARICOM Affairs, he spoke to the media after the opening ceremony of the CARICOM Caribbean Single Market Economy Focal Point Attachment Program, not too far from here at the Bricks Hotel. And he was speaking on, well, in this instance, the issue, of course, between the disputed ownership of the Essequibo region. And he said, CARICOM continues to speak with one united voice on this issue and will continue to do so, acknowledging our trade ties with Venezuela, but insisting that we, Trinidad and Tobago, are in agreement with CARICOM. And then things took a turn because, an interesting turn, because the minister said that he was disturbed by some of the statements from the opposition, trying to insert itself into foreign policy matters. And he basically said that it's a flagrant violation on the UNT's call for TNT to be a mediator of the national policy of Guyana. Some strong stuff. Now, to me, I had an issue when I saw this. I didn't have a chance to speak on it, and I didn't even necessarily want to speak about it or highlight it per se, because it wasn't that big of an issue, at least at the time. That is a member of the opposition, one Mr. Barry Padrath. I apologize. Those who watch the show religiously know. Oh, well, yeah. I apologize. But the opposition MP was basically saying, look, TNT needs to prepare for the event of war, because Venezuela's rhetoric doesn't seem as though there's going to be a peaceful resolution to this, right? What's the whole point of grandstanding or saber rattling? Because I don't think Guyana is going to give Venezuela concessions. It's going to be an all or nothing deal. I'll be very surprised if Guyana says, we'll share Essequibo. And the UNC MP was basically saying, we need to mediate. The problem with mediating is, again, what did I just say? I don't think Guyana is going to share Essequibo. What concessions then could Guyana, because sharing could mean giving up some of the land, giving up some of the tax revenue, giving up some of the rights to the resources. I don't think that's on the table for Guyana. Mediating requires a give and take. It implies that there's a dispute between two sides, and that dispute does not necessarily have anybody who is intrinsically right or wrong, because if I'm intrinsically right and you are intrinsically wrong, what is there to mediate? You need to either stop infringing on my rights, or you need to make it up for me if you infringed on my rights. Now, granted, we've yet to get some sort of final authority to decide on the matter. But at the end of the day, Guyana, I'm pretty sure, is not ready to go and sit and negotiate away assets that they believe they have every right to and Venezuela has no rights to. So what exactly are we entering into this for? We're going to say, we are going to mediate, we have to mediate. I found the whole concept of what the MP was talking about somewhat laughable, as though we have a say in the matter. We are a member of CARICOM. We have just as much say as any member of CARICOM, and that is we either support a member of CARICOM or we don't. If they want us to mediate, they will ask us. We ain't telling them, hey, we're going to mediate this for you. What, do we look like Big Brother? And I find it interesting. This is not 19 This is not the 1990s or the 2000s or the 2010s. This is not when the People's Partnership was in power and was throwing money around and all sorts of field initiative. Oops, did I say that out loud? Anyway, and the reason why I say it's grandstanding there on the title there, because that's what he was doing. It sounds nice, right? It sounds like it's the correct things to say. Emotionally, it sounds correct. Technically, it's very, very, I have to agree with the Minister of Foreign Affairs, because before I saw the Minister's comments, that's my original thought on the MP statements. Like, how could you say that? Where is it our place to just declare we're going to mediate? Does Guyana want us to mediate? I mean, everyone's favorite activist who stands for everything and thereby technically stands for nothing. Is it Dr. Wayne Kublal Singh, who's, I believe his doctorate is in literature or something like that. Definitely not in things like international politics and engineering and environmental science. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody. He has basically come out on the side of Venezuela. I believe it's a letter to the editor. He says, listen to Caracas. Okay, that's nice. And then he goes on and on about all sorts of different things that really and truly don't matter in this equation. All sorts of geopolitical arguments about the West and colonialism and blah, blah, blah. Conveniently forgetting that Spanish is not the indigenous language to the native people of Venezuela. So I wonder what happened there. It's almost as though, well, Britain made this colony of Guyana that's caused all these problems. But Spain and colonialism from Spain did nothing. No effect on the region, not at all. You know, they came into being with Spanish on their tongues. They spoke Spanish in the Amazon before Spain did, apparently. Ali does not want to meet with Venezuela. Well, I don't know if somebody decided I'm going to rattle sabers at the wall to your house and then say, you know, I'm going to take land because I disagree with the survey, because I disagree with the legitimacy of the survey. Okay, well, if it's two citizens having a dispute like that, they go to the courts. Venezuela doesn't want to go to the courts. So Venezuela just has the right to say that we were wronged. At this point, we are talking about border disputes from borders that were created due to conflicts by nations that regularly conquered people. In 2023, I'm pretty sure those sorts of disputes aren't as valid as we would like to think. Unless I'm wrong about what's going on with, anyway, let's not go there. And the reason, again, so first of all, I think everyone's favorite Monday morning activist, Dr. Will Kublal Singh, he's taking it up because it sounds good. It's emotionally pleasing to see I am standing up for what I believe is right, and the Western powers hate Venezuela, so obviously Venezuela must be the victim. Well, the opposition leader apparently does not necessarily quite agree with her MP, because she's saying, apparently making these statements, my clear message to Maduro is you touch one, you touch all. Stay out of Essequibo. And this is the thing about grandstanding. It makes it sound like I'm criticizing Mr. Pardath more than I actually am. It's not that it's like, how could he say that? And it's so stupid. No, he thought that it was the right thing to say, and he just said it. Right? It's what I say the opposition does all the time. Throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Even the kitchen sink, throw it at the wall. Made a hole in the wall, oops. That's unfortunate, made a hole in the wall. Was there any thought process on how could you say this? It's almost like if, you know, we're not the America of CARICOM. And even if we were, we're not anymore. So I don't necessarily think that this was some great crusade that the MP was on. I just think that he thought it was best to say this, because part of his message does make sense in a way, although I would like to caution the opposition MP. I'm very certain our one regiment could never be prepared if Venezuela wanted to mess with us militarily. Not going to be easy for Venezuela to invade over water, but I'm pretty sure our defensive strategy, if that happens, would be to call the United States. That's basically what it is, or the UK, but the UK is further. That we're just too small. It's, at this point, it's academic. Doesn't matter how bad Venezuela's military is, and it's not as though our military is some great expert on war fighting. But I get it. You want to be prepared. You want to be prepared for all the eventualities. That's cool. But I think on a technical level, you didn't think things through, and now the opposition leader technically is not agreeing with the stance. It's semantics, but at this level, if you want to be loose with semantics in local politics, and by local I mean within Trinidad and Tobago, within our political platforms and our political environment, that's fine. Our people, for better or worse, tend to not really care about the details. The details only matter, depending on who you support. If it is somebody you don't support and they get minor details wrong, it's the biggest sin in the world. If it's someone who you do support and they get minor details wrong, what's the big deal? But now you're talking about something international. You ought to be more careful than that. If you can't, then you're just, proving that you as an individual, not right for that kind of job. That's fine. There are other ministries and whatever. If your party gets into power, just please, this one, foreign affairs, obviously not for him. So, but I just wanted to point out, it's grandstanding. Once again, throw everything on the wall, including the kitchen sink, and see what sticks. Hopefully something does. Hopefully we elevate our, the kitchen sink made a hole in the wall. Who's going to fix that? What if CARICOM took issue with your phrasing? They took issue with the Prime Minister on the vaccines? Guyana, sorry, more specifically. What if Guyana took issue with our opposition MP's phrasing? Hell of a thing, right? Hell of a thing. Moving on to the next topic. And this is where we get into now more where I'm starting to think, I wonder why things have to be like this, boy. It seems Cabinet is stuck, I think, or I suspect Cabinet is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Because Cabinet is seeking further clarification from the Regulated Industries Commission about the rate increases with regards to TNTech and electricity. They want further clarification. So that implies that they asked for clarification, got some clarification, and now they need further clarification. My thing is, I don't doubt that TNTech has a lot of debt. It's reported to be $9 billion currently in the most recent report. My issue is, even if TNTech needs a rate increase, is Cabinet going to authorize it, and how much? Just after reducing the fuel subsidy and with property tax on the horizon. And here's the unfortunate truth. We might need all these things, but the problem is standard of living is dropping because purchasing power is dropping. Spending power of the individual dollar is dropping. The demands on a paycheck is dropping. The demands are increasing. It's said, and to what degree people understand the technicalities of it will vary, but it is said, what happened to the NAR? They did all the right things in the long run. With 33-3 from one election to losing the next. That's how fast you could fall if you actually give the people bitter medicine to swallow and they say, we don't like that. And that's what all of these things are. It's bitter medicine. The rate increase in TNTech is bitter medicine. So now my thing is, how did we get here? How did we get here? There are state agencies that owe TNTech money. The amount of money that they could get from collecting arrears is not going to cover this bill. The rate increase, at least in the immediate, is not going to cover this bill. Right? So it'll help, and they're saying we need it. That's cool. But government now is looking at a string of increases on expenditure that they're having to ask the population to pay for. With other issues, budgetary issues, like the education system, schools not being finished, renovations not being finished, construction not being finished, constructed schools that have, I believe, not been ever occupied, not being finished, EFCL closing its doors. What is MTS's financial situation, I wonder? Budgetary issues with the fire service, with the police service, potentially with the health service. Look, we have this housing development where now that whole situation, I think it's terrestrial, and they have to give back people their money because there's a dispute with the contractor, and there's a lot of resource issues. So the government needs these things if we want things. Local government has been balling for the last however many years, and that's just officially how much I know that I've been keeping track of, that they don't get their allocation. So we need these things, but will the population accept it? Therein lies the problem. Government is between a rock and a hard place, because if they don't do these things, there's not enough money. And people will complain when the roads don't get repaired. And people will complain when they have too many water issues, and when the police response times are too slow because we don't have any more cars. Or was that? A policeman speeding down the road going for doubles? But if they do those things, then the same population will say, how are we supposed to live? You're taking all our money. And this will go into the economic development of the country. And one thing I would like to piggyback on this is a high court judge was calling on business owners, I believe in the San Fernando Business Association, their Christmas dinner, right, to become vocal advocates of campaign finance reform. And I'd just like to, this is the first example here of where it seems as though, let's just say there are corrupt businessmen out there. That's a reasonable assumption. I know who they are, right? But there will be some. And it's almost as though they don't understand that by propping up these idiots, take a pick, opposition, government, whichever side, by propping them up because they are the most easily malleable and agreeable to your agenda, in the long run, you are weakening the nation by which your businesses, require to exist in, to profit from. There's nothing wrong with a business making profits, right? People kind of misunderstand that concept. But you need a healthy economy in order to actually have healthy growth, steady profit increases, etc., etc., etc. And it's almost as though they don't seem to understand that. So now we're stuck into this. Further clarification. What? If you blink 3 times, maybe the problem will disappear? A lot of speculation on my part, but I don't know. This tracks with the fact that, hey, things are popular. Why do you think they take it so long to fix WASA, despite the fact they say, oh, we need to fix WASA? I mean, even the fix with Petritrin, was it really a fix? They fixed some things, then they broke more things. All right, let's take a break here. When we come back, we'll finish up the daily review and go into more topics related to this, in my opinion. Stay tuned.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
Welcome back to Talk About. Not much time left before we have to welcome the media ambassador, but we still have some stuff to get through. So first of all, going back to the economy, or rather the energy economy of Trinidad and Tobago, because it seems as though we don't really have any other sector besides the fossil fuel related sectors. So even our manufacturing sector is primarily dominated by that side. But the Prime Minister met with the interim CEO of BP, Mr. Well, I'm not going to make a mistake on air about somebody else's name again this morning, too many times for the morning. But went to London, met with the BP interim CEO, and coming out of that meeting, there was a little press release from the office of the Prime Minister, talking about, they met and they spoke about restructuring Atlantic LNG and all of that. And then they had one sentence there, maybe, a tenth or an eighth of the whole thing. Discussions also focus on prospective initiatives, including the pursuit of deep water exploration and sanctioning of future projects. Now, I get it. I understand. We basically don't really have much of a plan. It goes back down to diversification is given lip service to, not actually do anything about it. To be fair, you do need to invest into diversification, and perhaps, I guess you could say the government is saying, we don't have the extra money to invest into diversification. And it takes me back to the point that I previously made. Well, High Court Judge C. Prasad is saying business owners need to be advocates for campaign finance reform. Because it seems as though whatever corrupt elements we do have in this country does not even care about their own long-term interests and don't understand that they're hurting themselves. Because we have a government now who only has one play in the playbook. Imagine if you had a sports team and you only have one play on offense. That's it. That's all you have. You have one play on defense, cut costs, and don't give out allocated money to things like local governments. What? They ain't right yet. We raise the price of gas, they ain't right yet. We have one play on offense. More fossil fuel deals. It's as though we just cannot comprehend that an economy could do something besides fossil fuels. I get it. It's the most bang for your buck. but literally the anemic response to other sectors of the economy, like tourism or agriculture. Like there seems to be no effort, really. They'll say there's effort, and yes, they do have people working on it, right? And what comes of it? Tourism literally has been in a stagnant or decaying state on a national level for decades at this point. Then there's a second part of it, and that is the transparency of the deals made. Because my initial question, and I think to some extent, I don't want to say that I'm at the same level as him, right? But to some extent, it's mirrored by concerns of the former Minister of Energy, Kevin Ramnarine, saying a lack of transparency between the parties involved for any shareholder agreement to be signed. Basically, my thought was, it's not as though BP was at our door hounding us trying to get exploration deals. And when we did have rounds for bidding for exploration, it wasn't as though they were oversubscribed and we had great responses to it, right? So we go to London to try to talk about making deals with BP. If they didn't want to do it with us, we have to go to them. I then have to ask, did we concede anything? Did we give up anything? Are the deals potentially not as lucrative? Are we somewhat disadvantaged on any future deals? Given the context of how we're having to negotiate for them, as opposed to what it was in the past? And to what extent does it hurt our interest? Now, granted, a smaller piece of a pie is still a piece of a pie. And if that's what we have to do to get things done, fine. But will it be harmful? Are we sacrificing too much? I mean, this is assuming that my speculation is correct at all, right? But I have to ask the question, are we conceding anything to try to get deals done? Because it seems as though people didn't really want to do any more business in the energy sector in TNT. They didn't seem to have the enthusiasm for it. All of the PR spin and statements aside, yeah, that doesn't mean anything. What the participation in the bidding rounds, that means something. The fact that we have a natural gas shortage in production, that means something. The fact that, you know, we don't really have new projects in any significant way coming down. We have some, but you know what I mean? It's not as though, you know, we're exploring every day and we're finding new wells, new potential fields every day. So I just have concerns. All right, running out of time. Next story, quick. This one is short and distressing. I can't say short and sweet to something like this. There is alleged rape of a teen by someone in a police uniform. When I say he's alleged to be a police officer, it was at a bazaar, a primary school bazaar, but the victim was a teenager. Initially, the perpetrator was wearing a police uniform, and then a couple hours later came back and interacted again with the victim, this time without the full uniform, and then the incident occurred. He took her to a remote location sometime after, and the incident occurred. The PCA is asking for the victim to reach out to the authority because I guess the PCA should investigate if potentially a police officer is involved. The thing is, I do wonder, now apparently she did report the rape, that's how it's known publicly. I do wonder to what extent though, if the context of the perception of the PCA, the TTPS, etc., is going to negatively affect the case, because I don't know if the victim and her parents, I don't know if they trust the PCA, if they believe in the police, I don't know what it's going to be. But I do want to point out that at any day, yes, he's wearing a policeman's uniform, but unless we have confirmation that it is a member of the TTPS, it is alleged, right? It is not proven. Far be it from criminals to put on the veneer of authority in order to try to, how to put it? It's not the first time we've heard of people dressed in army and police uniforms using that perceived authority to sort of reassure their victims just before they entrap them, to disarm them, to make them feel safe, and then stuff happens, right? Of course, that's not to say that it's not a police officer, it's just that we don't know. So I would ask the public, if possible, to refrain from any strong rhetoric either way until it's sorted out. Let it be sorted out. Last thing, and this one takes the cake for me. Another situation with teen rape. This time, it's one that was in the courts. And apparently, the victim of a rape, and she was a minor when she was raped, I believe a teen, is suing the state for the breach of her right to protection of the law and her right to security as a person due to the failure to hear the matter involving her rape expeditiously. And the state appealed. So the victim is saying the state did not expedite this matter, we want it done expeditiously. The state is appealing. The state is appealing on two grounds. They're appealing on two grounds in the sense that, well, sorry, there are 21 grounds of appeal, but there are two main ones that I find very interesting. First, the state is saying that the state has allocated personnel and resources for the office of the DPP and the judiciary, which are both already notoriously oversubscribed and under-resourced. Not clear how, by the stroke of a judicial pen, that is to say, a judge saying you have to expedite, it could be reconfigured to accommodate a single trial. Then they go on to say, more than this, well, let me just go to the actual. Basically, they went on to say, I wanted to find the actual proceedings, right? But basically they said, well, if we expedite this one, it opens up the floodgates of state liability in respects to various categories. I believe, well, expedite us. So if we do it for one, it'll open up the liability. Well, why we can't do it for all? And the state is basically saying, we can't afford that in more ways than one. Well, here's the problem. The problem is the state is actually trying to expedite their appeal. Because if a rape victim wants her case expedited, no, we don't have resources for that. We don't have resources for that. But we have resources to try and ensure that our appeal is expedited. Now, I grant it, on a technical level, yes, you're spending some money here in an attempt to stop a court order or to get a quick resolution that will prevent you from having to potentially expend a lot more resources. So on a dollars and cents aspect, it does make sense. The problem is, I mean, maybe not on an ethical aspect, but on an optical analysis, analyzing the optics of it. You know, we can't afford to expedite you, but expedite us. And then the whole thing about, well, we open up the floodgates of litigation. But the state sets the resources, right? Costs, financial resources and personnel, notoriously oversubscribed and under-resourced. It kind of admits at least part of the problem in its own appeal, that the DPP is under-resourced. Well, whose fault is that? How could, is that a defense? I'm sorry, we've under-resourced the director, the office of the DPP. Therefore, we don't have the capacity to see to expediting your matter so that you could get justice in a timely manner. Note, if it was a situation where we have a context of criminal matters being done in a reasonable time frame, if that was the norm, then maybe the government's appeal here has some grounds, I think. You know, why should we expedite this matter? The problem is, the reputation is that criminal proceedings take extraordinarily long. Court matters take extraordinarily long. And to some extent, I do believe that a victim should have the right to say, hey, what's going on? You're infringing upon my rights to get justice done in a matter of which I was the victim, of which you, the state, are supposed to protect me, seek justice for me. Not seek justice for me after, you know, half of the office of the DPP has retired because it took 15 years. And then who knows if the judge now is retiring or wants a promotion, so she tells the Chief Justice that I don't have any more matters pending, or if the actual original member of the DPP staff who was taking the thing, he retires, the DPP is replaced, and then there's a new administration with a new agenda and new policies and blah, 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 blah. It's one thing if it takes 5 years, but a lot could go wrong with the system. A lot of changes could occur. Human life happens, and it impacts cases. And that's the context of which this victim has taken to the state. I want my matter expedited. The state is saying, no, well, we can't because we've under-resourced the DPP, which is in part what causes the delay. So how could we expedite things? But please expedite this. And again, it goes back to, I get it. There are corrupt elements in our society. There is. Let's just say there is, right? Because we have too many grease the wheel scenarios that we know of in our everyday life that are very small scale, but they're there. We know of them. Let's not, and that is corruption. If that's not corruption, that's the gateway to corruption. And the fact of the matter is that at one point are the people who are, yes, we will, you know, finance your campaign, and we will have you in our back pocket, and you will do what we say. Is it good for the country? No, but we will profit. We will line our pockets with money. Except what happens when the country goes down the drain? When the gravy train hits into a brick wall, what happens then? Then it doesn't matter how much politicians you have in your back pocket, there isn't anything left. So, anyway, I'm over time. Things like this with the judiciary, it's left to fester. And I'd like to know how many financiers who won't admit that they're financiers, if they had a situation where a family member was the victim, all of a sudden they will be making demands to have their matters expedited. Or just, you know, food for thought. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have the ASP with us. Stay tuned to Talking Points.
Let the Home Store turn your house into a home you love. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. And just for you this Christmas, come check us out for great gift ideas and all your Christmas decorations. 6 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at West Mall, Pennywise Plaza Chaguanas, C3 Center Branch, Christmas Store at C3 San Fernando, and Eastgate Mall, Trin City. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. And we have here with us the TTPS Media Ambassador, who is here to speak to us about general safety information over Christmas. And I want to make this point up front, that when the media ambassadors come here and they tell us things about be careful with online transactions, be careful about going to the bank and walking around with large amounts of cash, it's practical things that the media ambassadors come here, like our media ambassador Ashraf Ali comes here to tell us, to warn us about actual things that we could be victim of. So with that, good morning.
Good morning, sir. It's good to be here again. And like you started the ball rolling, because those are the over the past couple of months we have been speaking about online transaction.
Especially that, the amount of times that it's spoken about here.
Exactly. And we still have persons getting caught being victims of online transactions, right? And they're not adhering to the calls and taking more precaution as they should.
Is it just too tempting? Because it looks like a good deal, right?
Well,
so, you know.
At the end of the day, we keep reinforcing, and that is as much as we can continue to do, because some persons of the opinion that we're not catching the criminals. But you're presenting an opportunity, and you keep on presenting an opportunity to encouraging criminals to continue the act by presenting yourself as a victim, because really and truly that is what you're doing, right? And when you look at some of these transactions, we talk about online transaction, we talk about carrying large sums of cash, right? Going to the bank, when you go to the bank and you take out large sums of cash, how you secure that large sums of cash coming out of the bank month-end periods, making cash transactions from your business space into the bank. And we have heard over the last 11 months of this year, the number of reports we have, incidents where persons were robbed, going to the bank, coming from the bank, online transactions, lost their motor vehicle at car parks, park your vehicle indiscriminately in certain areas, not understanding where you're parking your vehicles and understanding the environment, the way you're parking your vehicles.
Going to crime hotspots to do transactions on their own.
Exactly, and you keep reinforcing it for the past 11 months. Now, Christmas period is a heightened period for a lot of activities.
And all these things could very much happen at
so
Christmas.
They are all now heightened into the in the context that a lot of persons who, well, we fully blown into the Christmas because we are a couple of more days again into the until Christmas. Notwithstanding Christmas, we also have end of year activities, and right after, we must always remember that it's Carnival is a Trinidad and Tobago event.
A lot of these might have a lot of people walking around with large amounts of cash.
Right.
You're buying a Christmas present, you're buying a carnival costume.
Good.
You're going to a fete.
Exactly. So we can't consider it from any other persons across the world with Carnival. Christmas alone is where they have to consider for the heightened period. We have Carnival, which is part of our culture. So one leads into the other, and the activities leads into the other. So as of 12 midnight on Boxing Day,
yeah, of course, yeah,
there's no more Carnival, no more Christmas events. It is now Carnival related. So we into Carnival full bloom, and those are the type of things that we will see happening. So we have things leading. So when we talk about on my last appearance, I spoke about the data. We talk about the amount of road fatalities we had.
Yeah.
And the number of persons that was arrested and charged for drinking and driving. Christmas, Carnival, there is going to be an increase in the consumption of alcohol, and we continue to tell persons to drink responsibly as well as drive responsibly.
I hate to say this, but is it almost like a national pastime? You go, you drink, you fete, and then you drive.
Sometimes I feel that we can just do a recording of these type of tips and every day display it, because it just keeps happening over and over. The more that we come and we keep talking about it, we continue to have persons just doing the same thing we tell you not to do. So then, we talking about adults, we talk about children who how they say, it's hardened children don't listen.
Yeah.
We have adults who still be in that same environment. They're still not listening to what is taking place. And no children, no child is drive a vehicle here. We're talking adults, 18 and over, legally too. And then you have adults who past 21, right? Who have been on the roads, speaking this thing that you hear a lot of them talking as an experienced driver, drinker and driver. What is an experienced drinker and driver?
Someone who got away with breaking the law many times.
Right. Someone who yeah, exactly, right? You was fortunate, so that doesn't give you the right to say or claim that you're an experienced drinker and driver, right? And this is some of the things that we continue to tell people. Those type of an analogy does not make sense, because you may not have caused an accident, but you may not have been involved in an accident. But while you're driving on the road, do you know how many bad drivers you may have given someone else that may have caused those individuals to cause an accident? Might be a simple accident or a minor accident, but at the same time, you may not be aware of it.
Just in general, just thinking about what alcohol did to me when I was younger as opposed to what it does to me when I'm older, friends, whatever, right? Not talk about being an experienced driver, right? Because, yeah, to some extent, I don't understand how it's never a risk, right? But I've seen, like, alcohol affect as you get older. Because at some point, yeah, if you drink frequently as a young person, maybe you could kind of shake it off and get away with it, you know. But as you get older, that experience really does not matter.
No.
And it doesn't matter how many times you did it in the past as a young person who drank heavily. At some point, it's going to catch up to you where you're older. The alcohol is going to hit you differently. You think you're going to be... And it's actually... It's interesting how similar it is to how overdosing with hard drugs happens as well, where you think you're experienced, you think you can handle it, and then at some point you can't, and it catches up to you. And, I mean, you have to be lucky to reach that point with alcohol, because young people, as much as what I just said, you know, yeah, you could deal with alcohol better than older people, you could still get into drunk driving accidents.
So true, and in our, I would say in our era, because we might be around the same time, right? Give or take some years.
Give or take half a decade here and there.
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Right. But at the same time, the current environment and the current attitude of the persons in the last 10, 15 years, it is no longer about alcohol anymore. It's about alcohol mixed with a number of different drugs to come up with a different cocktail.
I have no idea how that even works.
Combination of alcohols, combination of drugs at the same time. No. So that adds a different environment altogether.
I guess you could say, I don't know about Christmas, although generally it's possible. Technically, fetes have been happening before the Christmas season, right? Carnival culture now and fetting, etc., will include the mixture of alcohol with drugs.
With the drugs.
Now, one of the things that people don't understand, one of the hidden dangers with drugs is it's not just the drugs themselves. The drugs themselves are bad enough, but there's no guarantee what you are ingesting.
And the combination, that combination, there's no scientific data to even suggest.
I believe one of the problems with ecstasy is the inconsistency of it, and you could get what you think is a pill that you know, and you know what it'll do to you, spiked with something else harder and worse. You could get hard drugs in marijuana. And these things can have an extreme detrimental effect, not only because it's a harder drug, but it's a harder drug mixed with something else, and then you're mixing it with alcohol.
Exactly. So we have the issue of parties and fetes that's taking place, and the use of alcohol, and the misuse of alcohol, and the abuse of alcohol at these events combined with drugs. That is one. Then we also have the opportunities where you, in a particular state of mind, present yourself as you could become presenting yourself as a victim of other crimes, robberies, rapes. We have other indecent assaults, other things that you could end up getting yourself involved. Present yourself as a victim because you're putting yourself in a victim in an environment about victim by not taking care of yourself, understanding what your environment you're going into.
Well, as you said, rapes, because Christmas season, shopping, working overtime, etc., it makes me wonder, are there any heightened concerns about maybe women having to travel later at night when PH taxis might be the only cars available?
And it is always a concern, not even for Christmas, but throughout the year with respect to utilizing those type of vehicles and opportunities that they present, right? So it's a concern over the years, but at the same time, yes, Christmas time businesses do in fact open longer hours, and their employees may work later in the night. So persons who have to do that, they may make sure that they have proper arrangements.
Carpooling and the like?
Yeah, whatever arrangements you have, make sure it's a safe arrangement so you can reach your destination in time. Because traveling at those hours late into the night, it's very difficult. It will be very, very difficult, as well as increasing the risk at the same time.
So the ASP is saying make arrangements. I will go further and just ask people, look, it might be out of your way, but take the time to ensure that your co-worker gets home safe. And maybe that means you have to drop them directly in front of their house. But if you're coming off work at 10, 11 o'clock in the night, at some point, even if it's a man, right? Let's not underestimate the situation. Men could be victims of crimes. They could be robbed and potentially murdered for their money in a PH taxi at 12 a.m. midnight, right?
Exactly. So crime is not above anyone at this point in time, right? Anybody who presents as and these criminal elements see you as an opportunity, right? And they view the environment as an opportunity to commit the crime, and you become a victim. Now we also have the other aspect of it, where we all continue to have challenges, and where parents need to take much more consideration in this environment. Again, over the years, we've been saying it for the last 11 months, school is going to be closed. And we still have the problems when school is closed of proper supervision of your child or your children at home, leaving them with responsible adults. We spoke about responsible adults already.
Yes.
Not because somebody might be adult, it does not mean that that person is responsible. It has to, and who you're leaving your children with. You may want to carry anybody, may choose to do some summer camps. Not summer camp, the Christmas camp. The camps, may choose. You may even want to go to the beaches, right? And there's a risk associated with the beaches at the same time.
But what about also older teenagers who are not yet adults, but they have some level of independence and they're left to their own devices during the Christmas break?
And we know what the devices are. Social media plays a critical role in their life, right? Going online, viewing a lot of things.
Because, you might be scammed as an adult for your money or whatever it is you're trying to sell online. Your 16-year-old doesn't have any money to scam. It might be whatever you give them. But they have other things. And female teens are at risk of rape. Male teens are not immune to being sexually assaulted.
We also have a trend, and it has been a trend for some time ago. People don't understand this. Posting your locations and pictures and images of where I am or where I intend to go online for all your friends to get likes. You're predicting your location at any given point in time and presenting an opportunity for somebody to know all your movements. Now, the reverse of that is, here how that is, it expands. If you continue doing that, persons could target when you are not home. Right? So it's no longer about going and see if the person is home or not. But by social media alone, criminal elements are on social media, so they could target. They could say, hey, this person not home. Look the line with X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, so what they might do, they might see somebody that they think has money, kind of case them a bit, and then monitor their social media.
Because to
get information.
When you post on social media and you get likes, you do not know who is liking you. All you getting is likes.
So what about the phenomenon that happens with some people where their life looks so much more glamorous than it is? This is something that's very common. A lot of social media influencers does say, listen, real life is not quite like what you see on Instagram. But to the criminal element, it looks as though you live in the high life, right?
So then your opportunity, I am looking at you, I'm targeting you now because I am seeing what I want to see. I am seeing that you live in the life. So you're presenting yourself as a potential target because this is what's taking place. And then the reality might hit, right? So we have been reinforcing multiple things and we will continue reinforcing things as we getting closer to Christmas. And it may be repetitive because these are things that continuously happening, and safety tips are not a one-off. If you do not repeat safety tips and remind persons of these type of things that are happening, they tend to forget.
Yeah.
And they believe it can't happen to me unless it really happened to me.
Yes, I think that's the biggest thing there.
Right? A lot of persons might believe that my vehicle is safe. I park my vehicle safe, but you don't know who is looking at your vehicle. Who are looking at that opportunity to get the opportunity to take your vehicle. Just simply going to the grocery and coming out to the grocery with 10 and 15 bags where they push the grocery out. You don't know who is watching the amount of grocery that you are purchasing. They don't know what you purchase, but they're seeing a trunk load of groceries. There's an opportunity for those individuals to take the car with the groceries.
Yeah.
Right? These are things that you need to understand trying to say you want to ring signal the bell that crime is so high and we're talking about crime, but the reality is that, let us be real. Our data support it. The number of robberies that we have and the type of robberies that we gain is robberies of opportunities where persons continue doing acts that know that they're putting themselves in harm's way.
And at the end of the day, the police could only do so much after the crime happened. It already happened.
And we only do and when you have to investigate the crime, it takes a little time to investigate the crime. But at the same time, if the criminals are profiting from these type of acts, they are not going to stop. But if you do all that you can do to prevent or contributed by your actions or your inactions in some cases, right? you have done your part.
So just want to wrap things up there to remind you, because I think we mentioned this before. And of course, during the Christmas season, there's just the heightened risk for all of this. Because the irony is, just as much as how we might want to do Christmas shopping and have to spend all this money on presents and food and painting the house and decorations and stuff like that, criminal elements want to do the same thing. So their need is just like I believe it was said, before certain events, there might be spikes of petty theft because they had to pay for the Fed ticket, they had to pay for the shoes and the clothes and stuff like that.
And that is and when they want to go online, they want to spend lavishly also because they are not hard working. They're not working hard for anything. They look for opportunities to make that money because they believe in their mind, in their small world, in their mind, that that is where they deserve to get that. And they deserve to live it because somebody else have more and they need to get it. So we have to understand that it is not about trying to tell you to stay in your house and don't come out because outside here is so totally unsafe for you. But you need to do certain things to protect yourself and your family. All right? Throughout, as we getting closer to Christmas, we'll have more conversation about some more tips and some more things as they present itself.
Folks, heed the warnings now, because the ASP, he's telling you things that are happening. They're real and they have happened. And then whenever I see anybody that they got scammed out of the money with a Facebook transaction, I kind of shake my head. I know it's not fair, maybe they just didn't get the message despite the fact that the media ambassadors are all giving out the message. But, I shake my head. It's like these things are preventable and we have to do our parts. Even if you get your stuff recovered, you still have to go through the process of being victimized and having to go through that ordeal. And why would you want to do that for yourself? So don't just depend on the police to come after the facts to fix things, because it's never really a fix. Never really a fix. No matter if they recover all of your money lost, the emotional distress, they can't recover that for you. Now, let's open the phone lines. Going straight in. Want to hear from you, the viewer. I had a lot of things to say earlier today, so let's see who disagrees with me. We have our first caller from San Fernando. Good morning, caller, you're on here.
Morning, Sean.
Morning.
Morning, SPLE.
Good morning, sir.
I want to go back to yesterday in your discussion, Sean.
Okay.
When you spoke about decriminalization of marijuana, and I want to say this morning, that the government of Trinidad and Tobago needs to go back to that decision that they made and repeal that or reverse that decision. Reverse that decision. One of the active ingredients in cannabis, Sean, for marijuana, the THC, tetrahydrochloride. That affects the brain in a unique way. It affects your and I just giving you a cursory look at it. It affects your appetite. It affects your memory. It affects the pain receptors, and it affects your mood. And if you look at criminal activity, and the ESPLE can speak more to this, that criminals, these criminals that we're seeing on the streets that are terrorizing people, two things that they do. They use marijuana and they use alcohol. And you all just spoke about the combination of drugs, and alcohol is a drug. And that is being hoisted upon the population of Trinidad and Tobago. It's just like tobacco and alcohol have effects, chronic use of those things have been affecting the health sector in this country, because the abuse of those things that create non-communicable diseases just is the same road that they're going down with marijuana use. The same road they're going down with marijuana use. And I am certain, Sean, that since the decriminalization of marijuana by the state, or since the decriminalization, how would I put it? Let me leave that alone for now. since the state made that decision, what has happened is they have opened up another avenue for the criminal enterprise in Trinidad and Tobago. Because ASPRD, tell me if I'm wrong, have you all not had bigger seizures of marijuana and imported marijuana in this country since that time?
Mm-hmm.
Can you answer that to me? Just one word, yes or no?
Yes, yes. You're so true, caller. And just to add to your caller, it's not about it is no longer about the legal aspects of it anymore. The decriminalization now has a social component that you realize that a number of persons who have never used marijuana are using marijuana and trying marijuana now, when it was a criminal offense. The use of marijuana was limited or restricted to a certain or a type of environment. Now, you realize that marijuana is used across the board.
Thank you, caller from San Fernando. I'll hold off from responding. I understand where you're coming from, and I don't think you're wrong per se, but I'll respond after. We have a caller from St. James waiting. Good morning, caller. You on there? Morning, caller. Hello.
Hello, morning.
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 How are you all? Listen, I'm trying to ascertain something here because I've been getting different, depending on who you are, you get different answers.
Mm-hmm.
I do not drink at all. I've never acquired the taste of drinking. I'm trying to find out why do people drink in terms of whether it's the taste or whether it's the effects that they have after getting that taste. You know, which one? Is it taste or is it what happens when they drink? I'm trying to find that out, and you always get some different answer. So the other point is that some people tend to drink the alcohol, because they heard instinct. The partners drink, so they drink. I'm trying to find out the different thing. I don't know if you all could help.
I could give you my theories. I don't know how scientific they are, but I could give you my theories on the matter. But we have St. Anne's, so we'll hold off on that. I'll definitely respond to that as well after San Fernando. But we have St. Anne's on the line. Good morning, St. Anne's. You on there? Morning.
We lost St. Anne's.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi, morning. You on the air, caller? Go ahead.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. I just want to make two comments, if I could.
Mm-hmm.
And good morning to your guest as well, Mr. Ali. I have a real concern, like Mr. San Fernando, about the decriminalization or the liberalization of the law as it refers to marijuana. At the time that they were discussing this in the Parliament, I did not hear as much
Caller, you there?
Lost them.
Caller, we might have lost the call. If you could call back, I don't know exactly what went on. Hey, boy, I don't know. Anyway, if you could call back, please feel free to do so to continue your contribution. I understand. I don't know if I'm going to preempt anything that you say. I might need to re-explain after your contribution, but I'll take the risk and start my response now. One of the things ASPLAI said is, I think that what we've done might be the worst way to do it. We decriminalize it. It's not technically legal. It's not a regulated industry. It's just decriminalized. And we kind of took this half measure where we can't really control it very well, and yet the criminal element still could profit off of it, and profit heavily. And while it's not the same thing as alcohol, you know, there's always the temptation to look at American prohibition with alcohol and, you know, the prohibition of drugs, the criminalization of drugs. And with regards to marijuana, I do think that there is some more parallels than with other hard drugs. And I was wondering, listen, I think where we are at is the worst. So I said before, either we ban it completely again, or we make it legal and regulated, where we could not just hopefully have, and I know I'm asking for actual performance and implementation here, but let me not get you involved in that talk. Let's just assume that it could be done. We could get it regulated. We could even potentially tax it. Alcohol is regulated, right? Because my thing is, young people were using marijuana before it was decriminalized. If we want to say, no, so many of them are new users, they were using it before they were criminalized. Criminals were using hard drugs, right? Okay, marijuana is more accessible now. Maybe they're like, okay, we'll just stick to marijuana. That actually might, in that context, be an improvement. Because the last thing I want is somebody high on coke coming with a gun to my head trying to rob me.
And you're so right. They started off the process, and I have to be very cautious as to my position and how I articulate the information, right? They started off the process. There was consultation, and I know for a fact that the police service was involved in the consultation and with the proposals put forward. The proposals was in fact reasonable. Honestly speaking, it was reasonable based on the context in which the decriminalization came across, right? Because the number of persons that was in the prison system.
Yes.
For
that aspect,
so
yes.
So the context and the reasoning behind it was logical. Let me put it this way: it was a logical approach, right? It had the relevant support and was passed. However, I am saying that there was no consideration across the board now for the social impact of decriminalization, which gave an opportunity now for persons who would not have decided to use marijuana,
right?
Because it was a criminal, because it was a criminal offense to use it. Now tried it. Now we have the avenue now where it is now used in food items.
Well, but it always was.
No, but the opportunity is here now
for
that
more
can
people.
make it for more persons
but
to
my thing is, there could be detrimental side effects of smoking marijuana. And we're not talking about smoking, we're just talking about, But my thing is there are detrimental side effects to drinking too much as well.
A lot of things.
Right? Not just the drinking and driving aspect, right? We're talking about neurological things, right?
So true.
And alcohol is legal, right? But also, I'll just say this, and I'll expand later. The whole societal aspect, we have to be careful that we're not correlating something that doesn't actually have a causal link, right? But let's hold off on that, because we let St. Anne's have his way in on the matters. St. Anne's, you're on the air. Good morning, again.
Thanks for taking my call again. I had begun to say that I didn't hear sufficient conversation about... Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I didn't hear sufficient conversation or discussion in the Parliament at the time that they were debating this about marijuana-induced psychosis. I used to work at St. Anne's Hospital in a non-medical situation, and the psychiatrists that I encountered there talked about this as a very real thing. And I was concerned that not enough focus was placed on that at the time of the bill law was being debated, because I felt, and always the chicken before the egg situation in this country, we were not building sufficient capacity for the potential increase in mental health care degradation related to marijuana usage in this country. And I don't think we are prepared for that. That's a serious thing. And my second comment concerns the cruise ship situation with regard to the Cabo Star. I saw a schedule published in the newspapers about a week or more ago indicating the dates on which the cruise ships are going to be coming into the country. And I found it odd at the time that they didn't mention anything about the Cabo Star. But of course now we know why. They tried to make an accommodation elsewhere and it failed. And I think it's a bit unfortunate that Tobago, again, has been put in a situation where for 16 days that ship will not be available to them in the way they used to, and they have to make secondary accommodations. This should not be a question of apples or oranges. We should be able to manage this. These ships would have been informed, or we would have been informed about the ships coming to our destination sometime in advance. Why wasn't the Cabo Star accommodated similarly sometime in advance? It's unfair to the Tobago citizens to have to deal with this scenario that plays out over and over again, where the Cabo Star, either because it goes down for servicing or because of some other issue, is out of reach. And I think it's something that speaks to the lack of management at the port about the it was being debated in Parliament, the need to convey approval to persons to be able to plant up to 4 trees. I don't know where they got the 4 from, why it couldn't have been 3 or 2 or 1. I don't understand that. I thought that was going into dangerous territory. But we're still in the early stages, and I guess it will take some time before we see the full impact of this. But I don't know if I want to, like Mr. San Fernando, call for a repeal of the law. I just felt the law in its liberalization went too far. And we need to consider, to look at that again to see the impact it's having. That's it.
Thank you, caller. Well,
the caller kind of supporting the context, and good thing we got the opportunity to hear where he was going with it, because really and truly, he brought out something that really, from a social perspective, we always had an issue of mental health and a challenge in Trinidad and Tobago with how we view mental health.
I hate to make this argument because it sounds very disingenuous, but don't we still have an issue with alcoholism affecting mental health? So I understand, yes, it's kind of bad to say, well, because alcohol is legal, marijuana should be legal because, it's just as bad. But to some extent, if we have ascertained that adults have the right to alcohol, I do have an issue with, but we don't have the right to marijuana. I don't smoke it, right? It's not a thing that I care to do, but I'm thinking about it now as a government standpoint, as a societal standpoint, where, yes, I understand that there's concerns, but we have the same concerns about alcohol. And if those concerns are so important, then we should try and ban both, right? But there's more to it than that. Again, I myself don't even like making that argument because, what it implies. But we have a caller from San Fernando. I don't know if it's San Fernando calling in again. Good morning.
Yes, Sean. I call back and speak to Mr. St. Anne to tell him that those are some of those reasons that he gave are why I want the law repealed. And let me say this. It is as if the government tried to put a plaster on a gangrene leg.
Yes, I'll agree with that for sure.
And that speaks to this particular government. Remember when I referred to it, calling it lazy law, where there is not enough research and that is put into making these decisions. You have a whole University of the West Indies with a social science department. Why not commission the social science department to do a research paper before you make decisions for this particular issue? Because this is a serious social issue, Sean.
Yeah.
Back to what Mr. St. Anne said about the decision to say that you could grow 3 trees per adult in your home. A lot of those homes have children. So if your children are seeing you growing the trees and drying the marijuana, you don't think they're going to get curious to try it?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the social problems that what is the answer to all those social problems with the government? The police going to see about it. The SPLE and they now have another thing to deal with.
So true, sir.
It's like the police service is the be-all and end-all to every criminal and social problem we have in this country now. Everybody's in the police. So it's just now with SPLE, we're going to have a police for every citizen. So we need to double the population. Because that's how ridiculous it gets in. I feel strongly about this, Sean.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I know.
Excuse my passion. So
it's fine. It is very much understandable. I think I have a lot of concerns, though, that it's not going to be solved with the course of action that you, Mr. San Fernando, think it would be solved for a couple of reasons. One, again, I think that we have other impacts on society, not just marijuana. So to ascribe it to marijuana first and foremost, or even in a significant way, I think there's more significant issues because young people were smoking when it was very legal.
No, I want to agree with both St. Anne's and San Fernando in the context of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They should have more conversation with respect to the law, right? Because there are many laws that would have been made, right? And over a period of time, they realized that there were shortcomings and gaps in the law. So there should be consideration for reviewing of this legislation and improve on it?
I think the issue is that they have, and I will agree with them 100% on this. There's one thing when you do a law and, you know, it's like a boat. You have a shakedown cruise because you ain't going to get everything perfectly first time around, right? But it seems as though this is not just, ooh, we had some technical errors that we need to fix. This is like we had glaring weaknesses going into this thing. And I mean, I'll say this. But this is an observable track record, results-based analysis of laws written by the administration.
So then we have to have a review, and a review would have been what? Did it achieve the objective of reducing the amount of persons in any court and any judicial system?
Which I agree with that aspect of it.
So
as you mentioned.
But what I'm saying, for a review purpose, did it reduce the amount of persons in the court system?
Oh, well, all right.
Because that was one of the intention. But the same discussion with respect to alcohol has been around for a number of years, right? In centuries. And the arguments that was presented for alcohol is the same argument that we presented for marijuana. No, because it was tried and tested, and even the social aspect, the social implications of alcohol, all of that was in fact discussed, and a lot of research went into it to where alcohol reached to this position right now. The fact that we have the issue of marijuana, I'm not saying that a lot of persons, there's data to support a number of persons. I do have that data. I can't give you data to show that there's any scientific data to say that a lot of persons using marijuana more than they used before. But let's be real. When you walk the streets of Trinidad and Tobago, the number of persons that you are seeing with marijuana and smoking marijuana at major locations and major events and a lot of our areas, it is much more than what was there before.
Right.
So the reality is there that there is, in fact, a number of persons smoking marijuana and engaged in marijuana. The most recent report we had was in the media where a young child in school was smoking marijuana and ended up in the hospital. Right? It is real. It is real to in the context that it is becoming much more readily available for persons to explore marijuana now. And that is the context what we have. So we have Christmas. We have the Christmas period and we have Carnival coming up. Yes, we have a lot of teenagers who their parents may have alcohol home and they're drinking alcohol while they're home. So they're exploring and they're experimenting, I should say, with different alcohols. Same thing is happening with party drugs.
Yeah.
They are experimenting with it. Now we have what we consider to be legal, and 30 grams of legal marijuana is a lot of marijuana for someone to be having the possession they be smoking. So when you look at it, when you look at what is really happening from a social perspective, right? You have opened Pandora's box and allow persons who willingly want to expose themselves to this drug the opportunity to use it.
Now, I'll just close by saying this. I know it's not a direct comparison, and availability, as you pointed out, it is different with regards to alcohol and marijuana. But also socially, like, alcohol usage in society is more tried and tested for whatever that's worth, right? But I'll just say this. The criminal profits of marijuana, I would like to see that undercut. It's so profitable, even though it's decriminalized, and I think that says something. That's point number one. And point number two, I think now, if you all are correct that marijuana usage has increased, I don't think you could put that genie back in the bottle. The cat is out of the bag, so now just decriminalizing it is not going to hamper down the usage anymore. And that's why I think even before, at the start of this, after Mr. Savannah listened to you, I thought, this is not, I don't think your solution is going to solve the problem. I think something needs to be done to encourage young people to smoke less. I know, yes, that's an uphill battle, but criminalizing it is not going to stop them. Trust me on that one. Folks, we have to wrap it up there. I want to thank all the callers. Thank you, ASP Ali. Today is a good day to have a good day, as my co-host always says. We will see you tomorrow morning. Start today. We see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the content capital.
My name is Carl Media. I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andy.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the red, white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the great